This is an overview of the Altama Maritime Assault Shoe in mid-cut after 14 days of amphibious use. This is the Maritime Assault Shoe, or boot, by Altama in mid-cut. The upper quarters are made from 1000D Cordura. Haven't weighed them in myself, but the website says they are 13.5 ounces or 385 grams, and that feels about right. They are designed for use in maritime environments. They're resistant to saltwater corrosion as long as you rinse them properly after each use or exposure. These are drain holes for the soles, so when water goes in, it can drain out while the shoe is being worn, and it seems to be designed so that a natural stepping motion pushes water toward the drain holes. The rubber toe cap is the same material as the sole rubber. It's designed to stick to slippery boat hulls and caving ladders. The sole is thin enough to provide protection from harsh environmental hazards while still providing a degree of sensitivity for feeling your way underwater or in low visibility, and maintaining a thin enough profile to be used inside of a dive fin, provided that the dive fins are large enough to be used with wetsuit boots. The lace grommets, or lace hardware, are corrosion resistant for use in salt water and come with this paint on them that does seem to eventually chip away with use, but maintains their corrosion resistance. Here we have some surf wax from a surfboard, which is what I have been using these shoes for. I've noticed some fading on this trim. I'm not sure if it's leather or synthetic, but it seems to be turning a kind of orange or pink. In here is showing a buildup of what I think is a combination of the glue that fastens the rubber toe cap to the Cordura upper and maybe a little bit of surf wax. These particular shoes are a US 13 regular. Regarding the quick drying features, it's worth mentioning that the shoes dry relatively quickly during the day and while exposed to sunlight, but when I use them in the ocean at sundown or after dark, they're still wet the next morning after being left to air dry. The insole is Ultron polyurethane, a soft rubber-like material that does not absorb water. It does absorb shock, but it does not absorb water. Past that is a whole lot of sand. That does not come out of the drain holes. None of the materials of the inside of the shoe absorb water. This is how they work, but it can also make them hot to wear if you're not regularly dousing them in water. If I'm not expecting prolonged exposure to water, but do anticipate exposure to sand or grit, I usually wear socks to prevent hot spots or blisters. This is how the soles have held up after 14 days of use, both in the ocean and on land. There are a couple tears going on here, and for the most part, I'm not noticing too much wear on the heel and the back. Pull loops are intact. I use them regularly for donning the shoes. Stitching is held up well. The soles have not warped or melted under the heat of the beach or road or trail. Regularly cross terrain that has been exposed to intense midday sunlight and would otherwise be uncomfortable to cross barefoot. The drain holes have some salt and surf wax in them, and they are also holding up well after 14 days of use, both on land and in the ocean. In the ocean, I've been using them for an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time, and then hiking about 1.5 kilometers before giving them a rinse with fresh water. Sometimes I miss a few spots when rinsing them, and you can see that here. This is how they've been holding up with a freshwater rinse after each use. The main points of wear I've noticed are on this trim here. I'm not sure if this is wear caused by UV rays or saltwater corrosion. I've also noticed that on these grommets or lace hardware, some of the paint has come off, but it hasn't seemed to have affected the corrosion resistance. Also worth mentioning is that when I received these new, the camouflage pattern seemed to be too dark in color to be effective, but after 14 days of regular use, the camo print has lightened to a functional brightness. This is an overview of 14 days of amphibious use of the Altama Maritime Assault Shoe in mid-cut.